African Ascent, African Ascent has developed this remarkable tradition of bringing to your intimate living rooms some of the best musics, contemporary music that is, organized by the principles of jazz and blues at Berklee College of Music, that many consider is the leading college for the study of contemporary music. Tonight, as I have done in the past, I bring you a carefully chosen musician who happens to be one of my 2 or 3 leading philosophy students at Berklee College of Music. His name is Erich Johnson. I will leave it entirely up to the audience to judge him musically, but my judgment of him as a philosopher is that he thinks carefully, rigorously, compassionately, and always guided by the principles of making human beings happy. African Ascent is proud to bring Erich Johnson to our studio for the first time. Welcome to African Ascent.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about you, Erich, but I find beginnings very difficult. Although I've been doing this work for the past 10 years or so, I always wonder, because I don't write out or rehearse the actual interview, what the first question is going to be. So my hesitation to ask it now is consistent with that flaw or defect that is inherent in beginnings as such. But let my first question for tonight be the following. How did you decide to commit yourself to music?
Well, it's funny that you say beginnings are the most difficult part, because coming to music was actually not that difficult of a decision. I mean, I sort of came back to music late, relatively late in life. I'm a little older than the average Berklee student, as you know. I played clarinet as a young child, and it was fun, but children are fickle, so we find other interests. But around the time I was 21, I picked up the guitar just as a hobby. Just thought it would be fun. And around the same time, I started discovering different types of musics. There's popular music that people are familiar with, stuff that's in the general consciousness, stuff that's played on the radio. But there's so much stuff out there that if all you have to do is put yourself out a little bit to go exploring for this stuff. And if often enough, you'll find something that's obscure, maybe not obscure, but not quite everywhere, and it'll capture something in your imagination or something in your soul. So yeah, I just have to say I went exploring for music, and I found music that I enjoyed, and music more or less found me. It's funny, earlier today you were talking about John Coltrane, and I have to say, Love Supreme, which you hold in high esteem, right? That's one of the albums that really made me think, this is what I want to do with my life, yeah. It's just such a profound album. I mean, there's a lot, I could go on and on about other albums that I find important, but to keep things succinct,
Yes.
maybe we can start there.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for making the beginnings portable to me. Now I think the questions will begin flowing by themselves. So naturally, Erich, it must have been quite disturbing, if that is the right term, for your parents who, upon discovering that you're going to become a musician, must have probably secretly began lamenting about what your future is going to be. Because most parents who bring their children to Berkeley have a tendency to ask some of the administrators a sort of assurances about what the futures of their kids are going to be. Mm-hmm. And of course, no administrator in his right mind is going to say, it's just going to be fine. Instead, what administrators have just begun saying by way of assuring hesitant parents is that at Berkeley we take great pride in producing musicians with alternative careers. The minor in philosophy that you've chosen, in which I take great pride because you're so good at it, is meant to function ideally as, if not an alternative, but a supplemental craft that you can turn to if for some reason music itself is not adequate. Are we being nice to Berkeley students? Are the administrators being nice and comforting to them when they give the parents these kinds of answers? So what are your thoughts on that?
Are they being comforting regarding alternative modes of career? I mean, with in any career path, nothing is certain. It's up to the student to sort of create their own path. You know, like from what I gather, there's an overabundance of law students. So where once used to be a surefire way to make a decent living, now from what I hear, it's hard to make a degree, or sorry, make a career out of law. So I think it's only reasonable for Berkeley's administration to present alternative modes of career for music students. Everyone has, of course, it's kind of a difficult question to be honest. It is, yeah.
I couldn't believe that I asked it. The question asked itself.
No, that's fair. I mean, as for myself, performing is a harrowing career, among harrowing careers, and I'm under no illusion about that. But, it's kind of about diversifying your talents and abilities. I have no qualms with teaching or entering academia in the future. I perform because it's a passion of mine, not because I imagine that I'm going to become rich at it someday. Maybe some people do. That's more power to them. But of course, I have to eat. So, like I said, it's about diversifying talents. So, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of phenomenal musicians who teach at Berkeley who aren't necessarily famous, but they make a living. They put food on the table. I would say they're successful because they're consummate artists and they make a living at it. So that's more or less my direction.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I've now known you for about 2 years, I think. This is the third philosophy course that you're taking with me?
Second.
My assessment of you in particular is that for you, there are no alternatives to the musical path because you love it so much. Would I be correct?
That's correct.
In assessing you that way?
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter whether you're going to garner financial benefits with it or not, because your primary motivation, as you just said, is not that. It is the passion for the music, which is what art in its musical form classically presented itself as. The great artists of the past, and why should the great artists of the future be any different? And one of them did not choose this path singularly for the purpose of either getting Grammys or becoming millionaires. Instead, they chose it very much like my relationship with philosophy, as I was telling you in the car. No human prejudice was going to stop Tedros from becoming a philosopher, and I did. The obstacles were tremendous on my path, partly as a function of the fact that I'm dark-skinned, partly as a function of the fact that I am a radical thinker, partly as a function of the fact that some people misunderstood my personality. Whatever the case may be, none of this deterred me from pursuing philosophy as a career, and thanks to the transcendent, I'm not very bad at it. I believe the same description applies to you, with suitable modifications. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously suitable modifications, but underlying sentiment is the same. Yeah. I mean, I came to music ultimately as a curiosity. As we discussed, notions of the sublime. Some of the most amazing musics in the world inspire a feeling of sublimity. And, but I'm naturally a curious person. So everything I've ever been interested in, I want to pick it apart, figure out how it works, why it works. So, listening to sublime music, you think, well, how are they doing this? And that was ultimately what became my passion. Like, how do I figure out what they're doing? It's like, oh, now I understand what they're doing. How do I do what they're doing? Oh, well, that's the process. That's the artistic process.
See. And additionally too, Erich, don't hesitate to disagree with me if I'm saying A, something ridiculous, it's possible that I am. B, that I may be saying something unfounded, which is very likely. And C, sometimes when I'm very lucky, I might probably get it right. But here it is. This is my observation. I notice at Berkeley too, perhaps you do also, that we have certain kinds of students who become attracted to the craft for about a year or so. And then upon arriving at Berkeley and taking a few music classes, they determine that A, they are not as great as they thought they are. B, that they think they are quite great, but then they notice that there are those who are greater. And C, they also notice that upon suffering for 4 years at Berkeley, there may not be jobs for them. So they drop out. You're not like that.
No, not at all. But, I have a different perspective on the situation from the average person coming to Berkeley. A lot of people come to Berkeley and they're right out of high school and they think, oh, well, I play or I sing or I do something musical, so why not go to Berkeley? And, like you said, they do like a year or two and they realize, oh, there are people better than me. Like I know people who felt that way and they left. And the sad thing is that a lot of them actually had tremendous potential and tremendous talent or skill, but they lost the fire or something in them. It's kind of, it's a shame, but, so it's important for the community of musicians and students at Berkeley to support itself, Everyone at some point feels inadequate. When I first came to Berkeley, I thought, oh, why am I here? I'm not that good. There's people who are 20 who are better than me. But it's not really about that, you know. Like you said, people who suffer, well, music is a passion, and passion isn't passion ultimately suffering, you know. So if an art is your passion, then ultimately in some form you will end up suffering for it. It's just about persevering.
Absolutely. I'm sure you know this about Van Gogh. I don't think he made any money.
I think he sold one painting in his life, and it was to a family member.
That's right. And look at what happened to Van Gogh's paintings after his death. So there is an inspirational source of the justification of a commitment or craft. I always use that as a motivator. Now, there's something else that I noticed about you, and this is in the context of the classroom. You like to think, and you're very good at it. I take great pride in asking you questions in my classes.
Thank you.
Because I know, and I speak from my heart, the questions are going to be treated with great care and also historical information. I can't help but think that this rigor, this precision, this appreciation for thought cannot but help you to become a musician with a difference, I think. That's what I aspire to produce in my lifetime at Berkeley. Not just musical machines, because Berkeley is filled with those, but musicians with a soul, who, among other things, think about the relevance of music in transforming, if not directly changing, human consciousness. Would I be right in expecting this kind of greatness from music, or am I dramatizing a little bit?
I mean, the meaning of arts in society is such a contentious issue. You know, some people think it's just casual pastime or, you know, mere entertainment. You know, you should be entertained by art, and to some degree. But I mean, it's kind of about, in my opinion, it's about partially envisioning what's possible, you know. Not necessarily like what Aristotle said, right? Not necessarily about imitating what already exists. It's about imagining what could exist, what might exist.
I like that. Now let me do some gossiping about the music industry. I've been recently getting frustrated when I listen to Jennifer Lopez and her musical piece called Booty. What have the musical landscape gone down to? Why are we lowering musical themes and topics to themes such as the booty? And why are we contributing to the furtherance of the stupidity of the masses?
I mean, I would say it's sort of there's like a tension between forces in society that seek to, you know, more puritanical forces who seek to censor natural forms of human expression. But then at the same time, you know, with the sexual revolution of the 60s, right? It was like, oh, we're not going to be oppressed anymore, which was, you know, in a way, it was a good thing. But in a way, it was also a way for industry to capitalize on sexuality, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You know, well, people are repressed. They want to express themselves in new ways, so, you know, we can market sexuality to them. I mean, to me, that seems like the underlying ideology behind that type of art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'm sure there are interesting explorations of traditionally taboo subjects, but I think there's an element of society that seeks to keep things, in a sense, marginalized, taboo, in order to then profit off of it. You know, when it sort of unleashes it, opens that Pandora's box. That kind of makes sense.
Of course it does. And in direct contrast, of course, continuing the theme that we barely touched today, the theme of sublimity. I wonder what the future of musics that are guided by the ideals of sublimity. What are the chances of these kinds of musics sustain themselves? What is it that artists so drawn to these particular musical forms could do and could not do? A, to continue producing them, and B, to hope that through their productions they could make a living. Suppose that they couldn't make a living, then what are the choices that musicians have other than to succumb to the world of commodification that Jennifer Lopez and others are brilliantly exploiting?
I'm not sure. I guess I'm still figuring that out, what alternative modes are. You know, within our society, there's only so many ways to make a living. You sort of have to, you have to persevere. Oh, if you have a passion, though, you ultimately just have to persevere at it. You know, it seems kind of vague, though. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right. No, you've answered it. And what are some of the things that you would like to say? Now we have about 2 minutes left on the behalf of the kind of music that you do. How do you describe the kinds of musics that you're drawn to? We have 3 minutes left. I want you to use these 3 minutes in any way you want.
Well, like I said earlier, you know, part of what I value about art is imagining what's possible. And, you know, so often in history, people have thought, oh, that's not possible, it's not feasible, and then someone comes along and makes it so. People are always pushing the boundaries of what's possible. You know, there's always an element of society that's sort of reactionary. And I guess I just see myself as part of a facet of society that is against that reactionary mindset. You know, I don't have any grandiose aspirations as to my own personal art. I do what I do as an exploration, you know, exploration of music, exploration of the world, exploration of reality. Like I said, I'm a curious person, so that's what I'm interested in, just exploring what's possible.
And how's Berkeley treating this exploring mind of yours?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, was never quite sure. You know, in any new endeavor, you can never be sure what you're going to encounter. But from the first semester, I was just blown away by the entire environment.
That's right. That's what I noticed in the classrooms. You're very happy at Berkeley.
I have no reason not to be.
Yes, you love your colleagues. They love you.
And my professors, the faculty is top notch.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, the professors of music at Berkeley perform on the highest level in the industry, I think.
And the thing is, they're all they're all as equally curious as I
Yes.
am. You know, that they have no qualms with, you have a question, they're more than happy to explore that with you. And they often enough they treat you as an equal, like a future colleague, essentially.
Right. You're quite right. Well, this has been a pleasure. And now Erich Johnson is going to treat us with his music.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom.
It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs.
And you learned how to not ignore yours.
I discovered how to make healthier meals.
And I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
We taught him how to hit a baseball. How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Before we move to the musics, I've always wanted to say the following. African Ascent and the episodes that the public loves so much is really a teamwork. I'm only a pebble in the ocean. The work is done by great professionals such as Barbara Murray, Leroy McLaurin, the crew on the cameras, Liz, Dan, and Morstan, and our director in the studio, Lexi. So I would like to express my gratefulness to this crew for making African Ascent a perpetual possibility of excellence. Thank you so much.
So I figured I would play one or two of my original tunes, but also a mix of jazz standards that I'm pretty familiar with. So maybe the first one I'll start with is Falling Grace by Steve Swallow. Hope you enjoy. Maybe next I'll do a Billy Strayhorn tune. If you're familiar, Duke Ellington's longtime collaborator. It's a tune called Isfahan. I thought I'd try one of my own. So this one's called In Light. Thank you. It's time for a few more. Let's see. I'd like to try another Billy Strayhorn tune. This one's called Lush Life. Thank you. Let's see, I can try, actually, try a Irving Berlin tune, How Deep is the Ocean? I'm sure you remember that. Thank you. Let me try All the Things You Are.